Good morning. I'm really looking forward to a beautiful day in the garden today. It's going to be gorgeous and everything out here is looking absolutely beautiful. I'm going to turn the camera around so I can show you. Okay, so coming in through here, through our arch, this week I've been coming home in the afternoons after work and watering and doing a little bit of weeding. On Tuesday, things were starting to look pretty wilted in their nursery cans, so I needed to get a few things in the ground and I didn't video it. It was hot and wilty and I needed to kind of get the job done as quickly as I could. So first thing here, we have the Tuscan Gold Heliopsis. This is a proven winners. I have 3 of them here in the center. They can get 24 to 32 inches tall, and they're going to add a little bit more height. We'll probably just get a little bit taller than we see here. I have them mixed in through a lot of echinacea coneflowers. I had several in here to begin with, and I added a couple more. These are the color-coded Fuchsia is Bright. These will stay just a little bit shorter than the Tuscan Gold, and they're gorgeous. They have this traditional coneflower look, and even as they start to wilt and dry out, they maintain this beautiful shape. Another thing that I got in the ground this week are these Baptisia, and they're false indigo is another thing that they're known by. These do well in full sun. They can also tolerate partial shade. These came from our local nursery. They're called Golden Anniversary, and when you look really closely, as they mature, they're going to have these dark blue blooms, almost like berries, that are going to form, and it'll be really beautiful. I love the contrast between the dark blooms and the golden foliage. Coming in through here, something else I had planted is a Vision in Red Astilbe, and this is also from our local growers. Astilbe, there's lots of different varieties. Some do well in full shade. Some can only tolerate partial sun. These were marked as full sun to full shade, so I'm giving them a shot in here because I love how the pink in the blooms goes along with the cone flowers. They have the traditional green foliage, and it was nice. I think it was a nice compliment coming in here among the other blues and purples. The last thing that I planted this week is this Dakota Burgundy Beard Tongue, also from a local grower. The leaf structure is so interesting. It has these dark burgundy stems, and you can see the veining on the leaves. Just absolutely beautiful. Some of them were pretty damaged. The stems on their bloom stalk, some of them had already snapped, so you can see a couple broken bits. And that's kind of a risk you take when you find these really tall plants. They can get damaged in the nursery, they can get damaged in planting and transition home, and that's what's happened here. But they're perennial, and they're going to be recovering beautifully. So also to take a look at some of the things that I transplanted last weekend, here we have the geranium, the Boom Chocolata geraniums. They have grown taller. I had fertilized them with the composted manure, and that seemed to do really well. 4 of them are doing great. One is in a little bit of shock, and I'm going to trim off those spent blooms and give it a good soak and see how it recovers. Over here, these are the butterfly bushes that I transplanted. The plants are healthy. They haven't bloomed yet. I'm not seeing any buds on them. I have a couple other of the same variety up in the front of the property that are blooming, and I'll show those to you later. But they've handled the transplant well. They're not wilted. The Kniphofia are doing really well. The false sunflower here is doing beautiful. This is the one that we transplanted, and it's recovered beautifully. Okay, as I come around here, this is the section that I was working on weeding over the week. So this main center area is the section that I had weeded and made room for transplanting some of these perennials and putting in some new plants. And over here, you can see I'm all set up to do some more weeding. This is the area where I have lavender. We have a lot of grasses coming in, and I'm going to be pulling those. Continue working on that today. All in through here. So this is, it's a big job, but I'm able to get through it rather quickly, and especially since the ground is moist, they come up pretty easily. Over through here is the bee balm and a lot of the mini snapdragons that we planted. The bee balm, this is the one that was cut back first, and it's already, well actually these two were cut back first, and they are recovering well. You can see all of the new buds forming, and it'll be nice to have that bright pink throughout the summer. Okay, in here, so I made a bit of a mistake. Several months ago, I had purchased mini seedlings for zinnias at the farmer's market, and I got a couple varieties because I had started seeds indoors, but I had started them way too early, and they became root bound and dried out in the house, and so I found some at the farmer's market. So we have these really short zinnias, which are, they stay short and they're branching out, and they're beautiful. Over here are also zinnias, which I knew that the coloring was different, but I did not realize that they were going to be so tall, because I have them planted in and amongst these marshmallow daisies. So some of the daisies in here are not receiving enough sun, and they're not able to dry out properly, and some of their leaves are getting soggy. So I'm not sure how I'm going to handle this yet. In our front section here I have some more of those small branching zinnias, which are so pretty. Have nearly all of my perennials that I put in from the 4-inch pots are doing very well. Some of them looked melted and were shocked with transplant. This one last weekend was basically flat on the ground and dried out, and it's doing great. This is a pink Gara, which is a perennial variety. I have a mixture of Gara in here that have light foliage with dark flowers, and dark foliage with light flowers, all interspersed together. I have 4 limelight hydrangeas that were planted as very, very young. This will eventually get to be 4 or 5 feet tall, but that's going to take years for it to achieve that height. One of my black-eyed Susans up here, when I came through the other day, actually that's it. The black-eyed Susan, when I came through the other day, the whole plant was protruding up out of the ground, and I know that that's not how I had planted it. And so a lot of the roots had started to dry out. I replanted it 2 days ago and watered it in, and it looks like at the base of it is starting to recover. I'm going to need to cut it back and give it a second chance, but I think an animal must have been digging out here. That happens sometimes when you see the base of the plant kind of coming upwards again. We know something's been at it. So in through here I have more zinnias. Lots of these seedlings. They are doing great. These are seeds that I direct sowed. Another plants that are recovering beautifully that had gone through a bit of shock being transplanted are these foxglove. Last weekend, as I was showing you this front area, these looked like they had melted into the ground. The leaves were brown at the bottom, and I had thought, well, you know, they're probably not going to be blooming this year, but they'll be beautiful next year. But if you look, you can see that buds are forming. And so we have several foxglove in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I had planted from nursery pots, and then several more that I have started from seeds. So that's going to be exciting. Okay, coming through here, this is another false sunflower, just starting to, it's filling up with all these beautiful buds. It had a couple blooming early, and those blooms were already spent. So I can come in here and just kind of pop those off, and they'll continue to rebloom throughout the summer. I have Russian sage coming in through here. As they mature over the years, they'll get to be 2 or 3 feet tall. It's a shorter variety. So I have some, I've filled in this area with a lot of annual flowers. My goal is to be planting more and more perennials that are going to come back every year and reduce the number of annuals that I have planted. Underneath this this willow, I planted a lot of pansies, and the pansies are not going to be blooming much longer. They're a cold season flower. They did great with the frost in the spring, and I'm going to be coming through here and shearing back the blooms, and it'll just be some green foliage, but then they'll be reblooming in the fall as the weather starts to cool off again. Okay. Coming back around here, this is the area that I had tilled and started our perennial wildflower field last weekend. I am not seeing much germination, but it's still really early to tell. I am seeing a little bit of ivy coming through, but I think there are a few seeds that may be starting. Generally speaking, perennials take longer to germinate than annual flowers, so we're going to give it a chance. Up here, we enjoyed our magnolia blooming this week. Our magnolia that I had written off for dead for a while, and she's recovering beautifully. This bloom is pretty spent. Generally, magnolias bloom earlier in the season, but it was going through a bit of a shock. And but that's really good because it let us know that the plant is happy and healthy. Here you can see that our new dogwood is also recovering beautifully. No more damage from the deer. Hopefully they're going to give us a break for the rest of the summer. Fingers crossed. So then as I come through over here, this is our rock pile. These are rocks that I've pulled up from the border from the front of the house. I have one bag of manure left. But coming around this way, here we have our white weeping cherry tree. I planted this in the spring 2 years ago, and it has grown enormous. It's turned into a bit of a monster of a tree. A couple weeks ago, I trimmed it up so that none of the branches were touching the ground. I'm going to have to do that again. Our spring this year was really hard on the plants. It budded up for blooms, but then it froze, and so the blooms died off. So we weren't able to enjoy any cherry blossom blooms this year. And so here we have the front of the house. I have the dappled willows. In through here, a lot of petunias. We have the show of our foxgloves, which are gorgeous. So that we have a lot of weeds coming through here, but it's not too bad because I've planted this front area very densely. And this is an example, sorry about my shadow, just getting the hang of this videoing. These are the Pugster butterfly bushes, and these two are a couple years older than the ones on the other side of the property. So once they're established, this is what they're going to be looking like. And here, I love the complement. This is a similar variety of the echinacea, and I love these cool colors here together. We have tick seed in through here, which is another native plant. It just finished blooming. I should have come up to do the front a couple days ago, but I'm going to shear it back and it's going to bloom again for us. Okay. Over here, this is another weeping cherry tree. I just discovered in the last couple days have a Japanese beetle situation. And this is something that I need to take care of because the Japanese beetles are invasive, and they not only damage the foliage, they damage the roots and the overall health of the soil. And I've been reading about the best natural way to handle the Japanese beetles because I don't want to do any harm to the ecosystem or the rest of the pollinators, but they do need to be taken care of. So in through here, I have several of the vanilla strawberry panicle hydrangeas, and these sustained a lot of damage from the deer. They're getting a late start in the year because of our crazy spring, but they are starting to put on some buds. And I'll come back through here in the next few weeks to show you how things are moving along. One of the first things I'm going to do today, I'm going to clean up just a little bit more of the weeds and grasses that have come in through this area that I handled last week. A couple plants that I want to get in the ground are this milkweed. And milkweed is a really important plant for monarch caterpillars especially. Due to a heavy increase in herbicide use and weed killers, people had been killing off the milkweed, and it's resulted in a massive decline in monarch butterflies. I tried planting milkweed from seed last year. I put the seeds out and nothing came of it. A lot of times the birds and the squirrels come out and eat the seeds that I'm planting. So I was able to find 2 of these at our local nursery. So swamp milkweed. These can grow 3 to 4 feet tall, so they can get pretty tall. They're going to add some more height into this area. They can be about a foot taller than some of our other perennials, but they have this really pretty white clustered flower on top. These were the last 2 that our nursery had. I'll keep my eyes out to see if I can get any more milkweed. I have some seeds and I'll try that again in through this section, maybe because the seeds will be protected by some of these more established plants. I may have more success, but we'll see what happens. So I'm going to clean this area up, plant those 2 perennials, and then I'm going to work in here to finish cleaning up these grasses and weeds and ground ivy that have come in through here. Hey, it's about time for me to call it quits for today. The humidity is really high and I've gotten a lot of work done. Like 2.5 carts of weeds and grasses that I've pulled through here. I did not get the milkweed planted, but I'm gonna try and get out early again tomorrow to plant that and a couple other things. So I'll show you where we are. Okay, so this is a view of the garden from the outside in, and I've cleaned up the back of this bed. There's a couple remnants that I still need to rake up, but the vast majority of the grasses and everything are gone. Here are these zinnias that were basically completely covered this morning. They're getting a little floppy because I was digging all around them, but they're going to be okay. The delphinium is also looking great. Some of the blooms are spent. I can come in and pop those heads off. This is their first year, so they're not as strong as they will be. And I have a couple other that haven't started to bloom yet. Probably not going to bloom this year, but hopefully in the future they will. Lavender's looking a whole lot better. I did not want to mulch my garden beds. I didn't want to mulch the garden beds because I wanted the plants protecting the ground, but because these are so new, I think I might have to. Another reason that I didn't want to mulch is because when I put the mulch down for the path here, the box elder bugs have spread drastically. The mulch is just filled with these box elders, and the box elders are not harmful. They're not doing any kind of damage. They're a nuisance and I can live with them. So I think next week I'm going to scatter a very thin layer of mulch in through here, and that will help the soil maintain some of its moisture. I also wanted to show you this gorgeous rose. We picked this, actually my wife picked 2 of these roses up from Aldi at the start of spring. It was a bare root, and they can get up to 5 or 6 feet tall, and I wasn't expecting it to bloom this year, but it is. And it's such unique coloring. As the petals age, they turn this really light pink and then dark pink, and they turn white again. It's very, very interesting. So then coming through here, you can see this garden bed, that this section is totally cleared out from the weeds and grasses, and it's made such a big difference. And now that it's clean, I'll be able to better manage staying on top of it, and it gives me space to pop a few other things in through here. So now all that's left is I have to clean up my stuff, and thank you for stopping by. We'll see you next time.